Well, good evening to you and welcome to this program of Walter Rodney Groundings. I'm your host, Deon Abrams, and on this evening's program I have with me our brother Desmond Trotman, and we'll be basically continuing our discourse from the last time and looking at a few other matters that are pertinent to the current political and social climate here in Guyana. Welcome to Walter Rodney Groundings, brother Trotman.
Thank you, John.
Well, it's the court has ruled. The Chief Justice, acting Chief Justice, has ruled. What are your thoughts on the decision?
Well, John, you could remember the thrust of our conversation last week, that there's a real likelihood that when the Chief Justice ruled, that half of the country will be supportive of our decision and half won't. That situation hasn't changed. In fact, that has the dissatisfaction is as widespread as we thought, and the satisfaction on the other side is just as widespread. But what has become clear, what is becoming more clear every day, is that there's a large segment of this population which seems to have very little confidence in the court, and the way in which decisions are being handed down, whether correct or not, has made people very angry, and there's a real difficulty for those persons who are not favored by the decisions to reject those decisions. Since last week, since the decision has been handed down, a number of persons have been accosting me, trying to find out what's next. I tell them it's not for me to say what next. I believe that the persons who filed the case will be pursuing it at the highest level as they have expressed, and so that we have to wait to see how those courts will rule. We have the appellate court and we have the apex court, but I can tell you there's very little confidence in a large segment of the population who believes that they will ever be able to get a favorable decision by not only our lower courts, but even from the appellate court and from the apex court, so that the expectation of fairness, which people believe could be forthcoming from the courts, those expectations have been dashed, and I think it's a serious position to have for citizens to have in this country, where the decisions of the court are not respected and supported by a large segment of the population. People who want to say, it doesn't matter, that those persons are of no consequence, but it's hard to believe that you could have as many persons as there are in this country who have little or no faith in the courts to hand down decisions which they feel are fair, and to say that those persons are of no consequence is to open the doors to chaos, I believe. And so let us hope that persons will be more receptive to court decisions when they're handed down. And I'm not saying that persons should be, because if I do believe that if persons feel that they are not being properly served by the courts, that those persons have a right to say and to express their feelings in the way which they want.
But you mentioned your take on the matter when we discussed last week was that the Esther Pereira decision that would have been handed down by the now chair of GCA might have been, in your thought, the basis for determining what would transpire in this case. I did express my lack of confidence in a decision favorable to the litigants, and I did say that you were going basically back to the same people who have made decisions before that run, well, I don't want to sound as though I'm, going against the court's decision, but ran counter to the views of a large section of the population, as you did say. And we're going back to the CCJ, which we believe also would have acted in ways that suggests that they were partisan and that they might not be favorable to the persons who are taking the matter to them, possibly again. But the decision saying that, well, look, the Esther Pereira decision was not of consequence. How do you view that now that GCOM has been given all powers to do whatever it feels in terms of decision making in relation to elections?
Yeah, you will recall, Deon, when we discussed it, that I had said that while it is, I believe, that Esther Pereira case laid the foundation for the litigants' actions, I still was concerned that the Chief Justice will rule that the GCOM had the powers to do something which I personally believe was unconstitutional. And the Chief Justice did say some things when she handed down her ruling, which to my mind, is worrying, because she talked about the way in which the Constitution should be interpreted, and said that it shouldn't give the impression as if it is a hardline approach in relation to the interpretation of the Constitution shouldn't be expected. That the court has the right to, in determining the constitutionality of a matter, to make its own judgment based on a number of things, which it is the litigants then take into consideration. And it's for that reason I say, and that I had anticipated, that the decision that will have been rendered was one which it is will have left a large, and has left a large segment of the population totally dissatisfied. And we have to face that, and we have to, as you have just said, we have to face the possibility that when the matter goes before the higher courts, like the appeal court in first instance, and the apex court, because the litigants, as far as I understand, have pledged to take the matter to its logical conclusion, meaning that they will go as far as possible. The apex court is the last court of resolution for this matter. And so that, and I know that during the cases, during those matters which engage the apex courts, persons were saying that this court is of no consequence, and people were advocating that Guyana withdraws from the Caribbean Court of Justice. I'm not saying that what people are saying is correct, but I'm not saying that people don't have the right to say how they feel about the matter. And so that, as I said earlier, I do believe that if people have no confidence in a system which they believe is not working in their best interest, they must express their dissatisfaction about that. And I think that's the situation that we face.
So, right now, the decision of Esther Pereira did say that government officials and parliamentarians and so on, that they did not have the right. Now, GCOM has the right. Is GCOM above
when Esther Pereira, when the matter which engaged the attention of the political leaders during Esther Pereira's time, the parliament was in session. And the political leaders took a decision which they believe would serve the country's best interests. And that decision was that persons who were going to cast their vote at the elections should first have an ID card. And those political leaders sat down together and made a decision. I think that I was one of the persons who participated in those discussions and made those decisions. And that decision went to Parliament, and Parliament legitimized the decision. what the court ruled in Esther Pereira, that political leaders, even in the best interest of the country, couldn't make decisions that are in violation of the Constitution. And so they struck down. Esther Pereira was struck down. But as you just said, this court here, the Chief Justice has ruled that because Parliament was not in session, the power rested in GCOM to make a decision that advanced the country's interest. So it comes back to what you were saying. It seems as if GCOM could make decisions that are unconstitutional, while the political leaders, and have those decisions confirmed as legitimate, while political leaders are not empowered to act in that way.
But what does that spell for the future of the country in terms of elections, of decision making, of things that are going to affect the nationhood?
Well, you see, we have to wonder if our next judge sitting in a matter of similar nature. Suppose the appeal court strikes down the Chief Justice's decision, because that could happen. And then those who have lost will then go to their thing, go to the apex court, and the apex court upholds the Chief Justice's upholds the appeal court decision. It then opens the country to a scenario which the Chief Justice's decision at this point of time doesn't open it to. Because one of the things that why the expectation was that if the Chief Justice had upheld the litigant's plea, that she would have had to make a ruling in relation to the decision or the declaration which was made by GCOM. But that hasn't happened. But the question that you've asked is a broader question, because I'm not sure how it is these persons thing. More and more persons are saying in the society that they because of the lack of confidence that they have in the judiciary, that the likelihood of the judiciary or any member of the judiciary handing down a decision that favors one side over the other, or make a decision that is in keeping with what people believe is the law, is remote. That the possibility of that happening is remote. And so that what's before us is something that we have to be very concerned about.
But that's the exact opinion that I shared last week, because I wasn't very optimistic in any decision. Because it's simply, as I did say, if those decisions are made, then all of the decisions, if the outcome that, for the litigants was in their favor, it would have meant, therefore, that all of the other decisions that came after May 2, that those decisions would have had to be reviewed. You understand? And the decisions that were made were made by the very people who are now trying these cases. So logic doesn't say that they are going to go back on things that they have done, and then, it's going to be some kind of, for me, looking kind of foolish. You understand? Having to backpedal on decisions that were made and could be found to be, not legitimate from the outcomes of these cases. So how are we expecting, the CCJ or any of the Sanders or any of them to make a decision in favor of
but you see, that tells you how deep the crisis is. because it comes down to the point that I made earlier, that a significant number of persons in Guyana, and even in the wider Caribbean, because there are concerns in other parts of the Caribbean about remaining, well, it's not a large number of countries are members of the CCJ, and there's a reluctance by some countries to get involved. People want to remain with the Privy Council. As backward as that may be, people feel greater confidence in the Privy Council. I believe that it has to do with the fact that people see members of the Privy Council
as dispassionate.
Right, yeah.
Not going to take sides.
Not going to take sides. And that the people who oversee the judicial system in this part of the world are more likely to be responsive to whatever their political concerns. I'm not saying that that is correct, but I'm saying that that's how people see it. That is how people see it. And so that the possibilities of people having confidence in any decision that is handed down, that there's, the possibility that there's going to be wholesale confidence in the court in any decision that is handed down is remote.
But either way, because people will be disappointed in the decisions anyhow. But I mean, I think the problem we have here is a crisis of confidence, as you pointed out, in the sense that the way the decisions are made and the justifications that are provided are so questionable, and I can be taken to court with it. that I mean, you left wondering. It's going to leave a lot of distaste and dissatisfaction. If let's say the Privy Council makes a ruling, I think even though people may not be satisfied with it, there is not going to be the same kind of response that we are seeing in the society today, because I think people will have, because of the same thing, of confidence and faith. All right, it's a bad thing, for the Caribbean and for the country. Guyana, in many ways, I'm in sympathy with the Madam Chief Justice. I know that she was wrong in the most egregious way by the former president. I think that was absolutely, outrageous, his conduct towards the woman and so on. But I don't know if that clouded her decision. If it did, then I think it's, taking the nation down a road of peril is not the best thing, and possibly, I don't know, seeking your own regress for wrongs that you might have perceived, if that is the circumstance. But we are at a road that is, I don't know where we are. We're basically a lost society in terms of, and this is a layman's perspective. This is not a legal. I'm not a legal mind, but from looking at what has been happening, I think our justice system is really at not even a crossroad. It's at no road at all.
Yeah, people feel that look, like you, I'm not a legal person, and so I try to understand what is taking place with my own limited intelligence. And, but people feel that insofar as the courts in Guyana are concerned, that there's a lot of international interference in the decision-making process. I mean, I for one was struck by the fact that when the European Union's commission team came here to Guyana the other day, one of the things that they said that they wanted to do was to meet with the Chief Justice of the country. Why? They have to submit a report. What did they say to the Chief Justice if the meeting came off? And so that we have to, for that reason, and for other reasons which have been advanced by other persons, there's a strong feeling that the judicial officials in this country are influenced by outside sources, international sources. I'm not sure. I don't know if they're correct, because I will want to believe that every time a judicial official hands down a decision, that person is doing so based on law. But my own interpretation, with my own limited intelligence, my own interpretation allows me to look at what has been said and to make my own judgment, whether relevant or not, on what has been said, the impact that it will have on the society.
But Trotman, we have been going down this road, with our constitution, even prior to now. The now dead Ian Chang was a master at, giving decisions that sometimes really left you neither here nor there, right? And then we had the former, Singh, who also had questionable decisions being made. So our courts, it's not only the international community that influences, the political environment.
Yeah, that also
has a significant, impact on decision making in our judicial system. It's not gonna go away. I mean, pretty easily. And then the Caribbean now, we see that, the influence also pervaded the decisions of the Caribbean Court of Justice. And so the impartiality that we're looking for, I don't know where we're going to get it and how.
But you made a very important point just now. You said you were offering an opinion. You said you may be charged for this. But we have to understand something, that we can't allow threats.
No, I'm not afraid.
We can't allow. No, I'm not saying. I'm not saying this particularly for your benefit. I'm saying this for the public thing. In spite of all of the threats to our freedoms, that we could only guarantee those freedoms if it is that we stand up and allow ourselves to be counted when we feel certain transgressions have taken place. We have to do that, because the one best way for you to have your freedom compromised is in the face of things that you believe are wrong, that you will be silent. And so that is important, even in spite of the fact that there are threats to people's freedoms, and more so, in fact, in Guyana, I'm seeing things happening. I mean, I was amazed the other day when I read this thing about the Minister of Sport being offended by some statement that some
Gavin Matthews.
Yeah, some social media person made. If the minister offended, the minister should take the man to court. Not the police must intervene and arrest the man. The minister must take the man to court. But I think that what you see happening are precursors to people's to the trampling of people's fundamental rights in this country. And we have to be very concerned about that. We have to be concerned about that development. And so that I want to say to people, in as much as you may feel that transgressions are taking place, in fact you may feel that decisions handed down by the court are not decisions that you agree with, you must say so. There was a time when it is outside of the courts in Guyana, and you always have a number of persons out there when important matters are being heard and when decisions of those matters are to be handed down. You used to have a large body of people outside there with different viewpoints, outside there wanting to hear what the court has said and expressing their own views on those decisions. Today, well, they can argue that the thing is we got COVID and we got to be, we can't allow persons to assemble in the numbers that they used to, and and feel that there's a reason for you to clamp down on protest action. But people have to make decisions about their own future, and I will say to them for the last time in this program that if you believe that your freedom is being transgressed, your freedom to criticize, you have the right to criticize. You may not agree, you have the right to disagree with decisions that are made. And if you believe that those rights are being compromised, speak out. Speak out. I heard that young Kidaki Amsterdam from Buxton, who runs a program, CAMS, I think, TV, I think, which is strong in expressing views. I mean, it's not a program that I listen to very often, but I believe what I heard recently is that he has been threatened, his life has been threatened by some person who lives in Buxton.
Not that he has been threatened. The information is that he's being marked and watched.
Yeah, well,
right?
it's amongst a threat.
Okay.
It's amongst a threat. And because what probably is happening is that this program is viewed as one which is not supportive of the administration. And so that they get their flunkies to go outside there and pass the word, you know. Now, this brings back a period of political suppression, and we have to be very careful. We have to resist these things, and so we must speak about them. We must speak about them when we hear about it. So speak out when we hear about them, because if we remain silent, it is going to be the order of the day.
But, you know, I mean, even though I'm talking here, I can't say that I was angry by the decision, because like I said, I expected it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, all the people who were putting their confidence and hope will have a different disposition.
Mm-hmm.
But I expected what was the outcome. You understand? So I cannot be angry or I think what I can do is say, well, look, you know, even though I expected it, I don't believe that the decision is one that, you know, I think we can live with.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
And that's how it is. I mean, why is it that you can't criticize the judiciary? Well, what is it about? I mean, I saw Starbuck News. I mean, they're hammering Harmon for some statements he made. I mean, in emotional statements after the. But the impression you get is that, you know, that the court is off limits for any form of criticism, and that decisions that are made must be accepted as they are, because this institution is I don't know what.
But the courts in Guyana have been under the microscope for years now. This is not the first time,
Well, I did
because
say that,
your decisions have been handed down, which people have disagreed with. Decisions have been handed down. That is why I said last week that when the Chief Justice hands down her decision, that it will leave one side of the coin satisfied, and on the other side of the coin deeply dissatisfied. I said so.
Yeah, I know.
And so that's the situation, because I, in my own limited sense of things, I thought that the issues that the Chief Justice had to confront is one in which it is that she will make another decision. I said so. I said so in the program. She didn't do so. She didn't do that, and she gave reasons. I don't know how correct she is, but I disagree with it. I disagree with it. Other persons have disagreed with it. But you can't say that persons can't express the disagreement with decisions. In fact, one of the reasons why it is that decisions of the courts are appealed really has to do with the fact that even those distinguished people who call themselves attorneys at law themselves agree or disagree with the decisions of the High Court officials, the court officials. So what's the matter? And the appeal?
Well, if you know, I'm just being facetious here. Luckily, that you know, if the powers were there, you might have had a res judicata. Oh boy, this is life in this country. It's amazing. I mean, I have come to reach that place where I have begun to not get too agitated. There was a point in this program, and every time I came,
Mhm.
I used to be angry, but I think having gone through the PPP for 23 years, and having gone through the APNU,
Yeah,
I
see?
think, yeah, I can't be angry about politics in Guyana anymore. You know, I can't be. It's so sad that we are where we are, and it doesn't seem as though we have any shining light on the horizon in a very short time. But in the finality of this discussion, I'm not optimistic again about the CCJ and what they're going to do in relation to this matter, if it does get to that.
Mhm.
Right? So I don't want to dampen people's spirits, but there's a crisis of confidence, and there is legitimacy for that crisis. And so my optimism is one that is certainly not there. But you mentioned the police and arresting of Gavin Matthews and their involvement in matters that really they shouldn't get involved in.
Yeah.
I'm also concerned about the frequent announcements of raids by the police. But all of these raids so far that I've heard of are targeting one set of communities that are occupied by African Guyanese. And it just seems to be sending a message that these are the only communities where crimes are
Mhm.
committed, or that, illegal activities of some sort are taking place.
Mhm.
What is really happening? Where are we heading again?
Right. I mean that if what you say is true, Deon, that's a very frightening situation. And again, it really points to the need for people to take actions in their defense. The police must say, why is it that they're targeting a particular segment of the country for this kind of action? I believe that the police should be seen to be impartial in the way in which it pursues crime. If people right now do not have that view that they're operating in a way that is that allows for investigation into the broader society, investigation of criminal activity in the broader society. Once it is that you see to be targeting a certain set of people, people will believe that it's political, because you can't run away from the thing right now that the police, with the minister who's in charge of the function of the police force, that there could be some political interference in the way in which it is the police are and the police are responding to political instructions. I mean, we have to be concerned, because in the matter of those persons, some of those persons who are charged for the commission of certain crimes, alleged to have been the allegation that certain crimes have been committed while they're employed at GCOM. One of the things that actually emerged was that on at least one or two instances, the Minister of Home Affairs was in actual fact raising questions, speaking directly to those persons. And so that you get the sense that political interference is widespread. I'm not sure if that is happening now, but I'm saying that once it is that a certain segment of people are being targeted, it seems if they're being targeted, you get the impression that that really has to do with political directions. And so that we have to think. I mean, the Matthews case is one which I really do believe that is not for the police to intervene. It is if the minister feels offended by what he has heard, the minister has the right to go to the court to take private action. But it seems as if that's not the case. I myself have a matter on my desk, which I was approached last week to intervene on behalf of a person who used to operate a little thing on the seawall, like a number of other persons, and that one day in June of last year, the police came down on him in the Leopold Street area, took away his music box and a number of other things, his charger and thing. And when he went to the police to make the report, he actually identified the policemen who were involved in this matter. And he was told that he must go and find out the ranks and get the numbers. He identified them physically. And he was told, you gotta go and get the numbers and come back to us. And you wonder what's happening. Recently, I followed my son to court the other day. It's a traffic matter that occurred since in October of last year. And the matter came up for trial, I think it was on Wednesday. So I'm in there watching at a thing with my son. The other person who was involved in the accident, she's in there also. The policeman who investigated the matter, the lady is sitting down there quietly waiting for the matter to be called. He then went up to her and called her, spoke to her, and then called her once. Now, how I knew that was her? Because I asked my son, who's the person who is involved in this matter? And he said, there's that lady over there. Something. He went to her, called her, took her aside, and I'm watching the team, and he then took out the file, the charge sheet, and he pointed to the thing. I saw him. I could say this on the oath. He then pointed to something, maybe what she said to him, and gave her the thing to go in a corner to refresh her mind with what she said. Now, I don't know this the way in which it is, because the police are supposed to be impartial in these matters. A matter comes to your attention, you carry out an investigation, and you proceed to prosecute based on the thing. But the minute you seek to get it so deeply involved in the matter, it tells me something is wrong with the police investigative tactics. I'm not making a wholesale allegation that the policemen generally think, because there are some policemen whose behavior is above reproach. But in the force, it seems to me as if there are so many rogue elements operating in the force that what is filtering down is that they're prepared not to be impartial in these matters. They're taking sides, and so that when they go to court, instead of them presenting fairly the evidence which they've collected in the matter, that they're not prepared. And so you've got to wonder. So for me, what is happening there in the Afro-Guyanese community in terms of the attention that is being directed against them, and what is happening, what I saw happen, and what I was told has happened. Because here it is, as I said, I have a matter which I've been asked to represent, and I'm going to be representing it, about this man whose equipment has been seized by some members of the police force. He has identified them, and he's being told that he must go and get the thing. The man identified them, including And one of the persons who he identified is the person who was in charge of the raid when it took place. And he said that they'll tell him now that you go and get the people rank and the number. What is wrong today? That's the way in which these matters are being carried out. And you're criminalizing people because the person is a good thing. The man is a level-headed person, and he's allowed. He's angry, but he's allowing the thing. He feels he came to me because he feels that he's getting no satisfaction from those areas that he has spoken, he has approached within the police organization, and so that he has to look beyond the police for things. Now that shouldn't be.
Yeah, but Trotty, that this is a frightening development. I mean, despite your concerns about issues related to the AP and UAFC and so on, the police, I mean, these things are going back to, pre-election, 2015.
Yeah, we knew a lot of allegations were made about the police involvement in certain kinds of crimes. That thing, people talked about state-sponsored terrorism, identified. I mean, you have. I was part of a group of persons within the joint opposition who collected evidence of over 400 persons who were executed, and some of them, the bodies cannot be found up to today. Gory details cannot be found up to today. And I haven't even heard about these international countries, America, European Union, the British, who have asked for that there should be an investigation, because that's horrific. That's horrific, and there is no forgetting. There's no forgetting that those crimes were committed under a certain regime. There's no forgetting that. And that what is seen to be happening, though, is a recurrence, of, criminals acting in relation with the police against persons. Against persons.
But the problem with that is that eventually, people are going to begin, if they find that the police now basically have become not protectors, but merely, a tool for bringing oppression and suffering and, tools for assassination of the citizenry, then people are going to retaliate.
Yeah.
And we are going to be in a state of, I don't know, but the country cannot be going back down that road that it once traveled. And I would think that our political leaders should have better sense than to encourage, this intimidation of people and the using of the police to oppress and suppress and really be not what they ought to be in terms of serving and protecting the people. But that's how it goes. I'm concerned also, Trot. We spoke about it again, but it seems not to be going away, and it's getting worse. Ashni Singh mouted a whole lot on television about businessmen being unscrupulous and so on. But every week you go to the market, the prices keep going up and up. A bottle of oil, I saw one guy put up, it was the big bottle was 8,000 or something. Now it's gone to nearly $1,000 added on to it. Milk has gone running helter-skelter from 400 to almost 600. Basic things that people have to live by. they're just adding every week, adding to them.
I said that in my own estimation of the thing is that prices seem to change every hour, and the change is upward. The police, the government has reports. I mean, when Ashley Singh spoke, it's because the outcries have been tremendous, and it's not only from the Afro-Guyanese community. Because I think that when he spoke, is a realization that even supporters of the People's Progressive Party are impacted by this situation. Now, it's not merely enough for you to say that you're going to deal condignly with people. How will you got to be able to gather the evidence, and you have to be able to mobilize a set of people to move surreptitiously around those business places, look at what the prices are, and act.
But they would know what those things are being imported.
No, the thing is that if it is the GRA must have, if it is that these things are coming in legitimately into the country, and a lot of them aren't coming in legitimately, and in spite of the fact that they're not coming in legitimately, the businessmen feel that they're above the law and that they can do anything because they feel that they because of the government, because there's a certain kind of businessman who's carrying out this activity, and because that businessman might be a supporter of the government, he feels no qualms about acting in the way in which he's acting. And so, as I said, this thing is so brutish that it is not only directed, it is not, you don't only have poor people within the Afro-Guyanese community, and poor people are across the length and breadth of Guyana. And I think that the Ashley Singh is responding to the fact that within his party's community of supporters, they're crying out, and they feel compelled to say something in order to assuage people's feelings. But the only way in which you can do that is bringing people to book. You have to do that. You have to go there. You have to gather the evidence. You have to ask, who it is who trading. If you go around by the marketplaces, you got the people with the canter, and all of the goods inside the thing, and the trading from the thing. Ask them where they get the goods from. Those things got to be done. Where they get the goods from? You pay any duty?
But that is not in keeping with the nature of the government that we're talking about.
No, well, the government, if it's concerned about the thing, it got to deal with how people's response is. It has to be concerned enough to even, when it is necessary, to beat down their own supporters who are carrying on this thing. But you can't say it's we people doing this thing, and so we can't touch them. And the blows coming down on everybody, including your own people. And because that's what's happening. Go to the thing, go by the marketplaces, because let me tell you something. If you go around by Border Market, you can see people discharging a whole set of goods, carrying it wrong to a thing, taking orders and carrying it. Where they get the goods? Where get the goods from? Let me see your duty slip. If you don't gotta seize the goods, it's only if it is that you take strong action that you're going to get the kind of responses that you need. But a lot of the thing is, a lot of the people who committing these crimes are supporters of the party and government, and they feel, look at what's happening. The COVID is spiraling out of control, and the government is reluctant to take the kind of action that will reduce the numbers of the affected. So that you find people saying to hell with the government, man. The government is serious. So that you're telling people you must only gather in these numbers. And people gathering in larger numbers. Look what's happening on Church Street now. Look what's happening on Church Street. At the casino. Look what's happening there. Look what's happening in Main Street. And in fact, the government when it put out a statement that the thing is spiraling out of control and they got to move to clamp down, the businessmen, the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce challenged the government to take action to close down the thing. Challenge the government because you see the profit margin being affected if it is to take the kind of action. If you reintroduce the kind of curfew, keep people off the streets, keep people off of the thing, and no, take actions. And no, you could do the man. And this way we are.
Yeah, but it's basically irresponsible. We see Bolsonaro, now he's having a
second thoughts.
He's not having second thoughts. But there's a process for his impeachment taking place.
Yeah.
In Brazil, but you can't be so callous about people's lives. It's absolutely disgusting. And I respect Frank Anthony.
But you can't respect Deon.
No.
You can't respect a person if the person is not man enough to say to his cabinet colleagues that we got to do more than we're doing. What's happening? He's party to the fact. Every time you hear he make the thing, he's party to the fact that you're not, the government is not, he's the Minister of Health.
Yeah, but he looks so damn foolish when he makes these statements. That's the thing.
So how you could rethink, how you could continue to respect a person who doesn't understand that he has to act decisively. The thing with COVID is that, people, where it is that you got a density in the population, it is easier for things to spread. What's happening on the borders? People are moving things freely. You don't got no checkpoint there and things, regardless of what they're saying. You don't have anything there, so that all the variants that are taking place, are going to enter into Guyana, and these people
are going to face a terrible challenge.
Yeah. Now you can't blame the previous administration, because the previous administration, how long it is that they removed from everything. You now got the thing. You got to act. You got to show that you got the moral fiber to deal with your supporters who are part of the problem in the society, because the big businesses where all of these things are taking place are run by their supporters, and they're not prepared to do anything because people got to make money.
Yeah, but a government, the concern of a government is for the people. So when you are refusing to deal with inflation, when you're refusing to deal with COVID and all these things, how can you say that you are having the people's interest as the paramount thing?
Yeah, the government pays lip service to these things, But if, as you say, they aren't demonstrating that they are government for all of the people will continue to see them as a government for only some of the people.
It's tragic. I want to deal with one other thing, because it's really the spate of killing of women.
Oh yes.
I tell you, what's really happening in our society, this thing is really getting.
Yeah, but this is being look, Deon. This thing has been spiraling out of proportion for the longest while. In fairness to this government, it's not something that has started from the time they took office. It started even before they were in office and did nothing, because ministers were accused of physically abusing their wives, and nothing happened. And people took it for granted, that they can continue in the way in which they go. And I believe that the government has to move beyond mere expressing concerns and acting. I don't believe that we are going to see a reverse in this situation. I think there's going to be an increase in it for as long as the government is not prepared to take action. And when it is, if it is that a person, a woman, is physically assaulted in Parliament, and because she's not one of your own, you will find any reason to excuse the physical assault. You're laying the foundation for an increase in the violence against women that has been taking place, that is taking place. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. And if it is that you could beat women in Parliament, you can beat them in your house. That's why that thing is as simple as that. Or you can get people to beat them up if it is that you believe that they're stepping out of line. We got a thing here where we beating women simply because they're talking back. You know? They tell you that you're playing them, they play your man, and that's what's happening. Women in this country, while it is that we hear about women's rights and all these things, and all of these international agencies are saying that you must have more women in Parliament and this and that, none of them are saying that the law must act condemningly with the assaulters of women.
But what is driving? This goes beyond assault, common assault. I mean, this is, taking, maybe you got a woman got stabbed, one got buried. I mean, it's really, and then you have an outfit on Facebook, as I told you earlier, publishing on Facebook that according to reliable sources, the suspect for the murder of the woman in Linden is in Guyana, and he's staying at such and such a place, at such and such a person. I mean, what kind of...
I think that if the police, it doesn't matter that the police should be investigated.
Yeah.
Because what a person could very well be doing is passing information on to the man to say, look, the police are on your heels. Because if he knows,
in the course of justice.
Yeah, if he knows, if it's a man or woman who has published this information, has the information, for all that the police will also have had the information, and what he could very well be doing is saying to the man, look, get up and run, because the police know that you're here, and they're coming to get you. And the police ought to have done something. I think that it does something that the police should have investigated, rather than running and saying, look, I'm going to arrest this man because the Minister of Sports said that he's aggrieved by the fact that the man called you some name or something. That is why it is, that when I use the word assault, I wasn't limiting it only to the thing, the brutalization that hasn't led to the person's death. Because I was talking about everything that has to do with the violence that is being directed against women. It is terrible. And I believe that until I could remember years ago saying to some men, let us come forward as a group and stand in defense of women. I hear they had operating from this place in Maurice Street, Kwame Street, someone men in something with women, and when it is that you look at the group that comprise the thing, people are saying that they themselves are violators of women's rights. So, but you got to think, because it has to do with much more than what you and I are doing on this thing. It has to do with people standing up and saying, you got to review the laws. The laws might very well be not strong enough to deal with these things,
Let's hope that in some way, it's halted or something, but you can't be getting up every day, and reading about.
Man killed his wife in Dorman Street yesterday, Yeah, stops her up. She got 4 children for thing. People surveys have shown that men beating the wives up simply because the women might be earning a little more money than them, and them thing, and
As Either.
No. And this is not a just come thing. This is something has been done years ago. That women suffer viciously at the hands of their spouses, simply because they're more qualified than them. They earn more money. The women contributing to the upliftment of the home and the family and all that, and then beating the daylights out of them. You know. Because they see the women as being superior to them and them kind of things. That's what we men do, you know.
Yeah, tragic time has caught up with us. We got the red light. But it's been a pleasure having this discourse with you once again. And I look forward to us continuing. I look forward to having Brother Ogun back on the program so that we can all continue to shed light on issues as they occur here in the country. And to the people out there who are watching, I want to thank you for being with us, and look out for us next week. Same time, same channel for another program of Walter Rodney Groundings. And do have a good night.
Some cry, some smile, some fight every day. We rise to the top, cause we know what it takes. Through it all we survive, yet still hold the faith. Unchangeable, Lord, unchangeable. Hey, no matter how the dollar might stack up, me still not change. Me I go stay rough. Inna the giddy and you have to buckle up your lace. Be smart, don't be a gruff now.